Welcome to the NooK on the Voluntary Virtues Network. I'm Steve. I'm here today with Pamela.
Hello.
And John.
Howdy.
Riley. The mystery woman. And Mike.
Yo.
And today we're going to be talking about...
For JJ.
among other things. What are you drinking right now, Mike?
What am I drinking? Oh, well. It's Lake Wolford Lager from Valley Center Brewing Company. They sell it in a jar because VC is classy, okay? So, yeah, no, it's really good.
Mason jar, it looks like, right?
Yeah, mason jar, yeah, with a little handle so I don't drop it.
Oh, that's fancy. Do you,
nice little
do you
cap
drink
in
it with your
You could
pinky
use
out?
it for anything.
Yeah, I drink it, and I can put a little cap on it so I don't spill it.
Yeah.
You know, it's my baba. So, yeah, no, it's really good. It's pretty smooth. It's not incredibly strong, which is kind of, I think, what most people are going for lager. They want something that's kind of refreshing, not like a heavy, which is kind of what I was feeling today. So, yeah, good stuff.
Nice. Very nice.
Very good. Yeah, I like Valley Center Brewing. They have some good sours.
Mm-hmm. I'm drinking one right now, actually. Sour 17, and it's...
That's not a beginner's
No,
sour.
it's not for the ununinitiated, that's for sure.
Was that the one you were drinking when we were there? 'Cause
Yeah.
That was like, diesel? For a second, I'm like, all right.
It definitely makes your tummy
It was
all
good,
warm
though.
and
It was
fuzzy
good.
inside.
It was good.
It's the sourest sour I've ever had, so if you're into sours, check it out.
That's cool. So speaking of alcohol, what do you think about the drinking age?
It's whack.
Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. You have most of the world where you can drink, like the actual defined legal age is like 16, most of Europe, if I remember correctly. But even then, you've got like old laws in Germany where it's like, can you sit at the bar stool? Okay, you can drink. It's just, and to me, like, that's really not that crazy. Well, okay, so this kid can sit at the bar stool. Do you want a beer? The kid's probably going to have a beer and get sloshed and not want another one. Like,
Yeah.
To sit here and define and say, okay, well, you can drink at a certain age because we say you can drink at a certain age. Well, now you have, at least like from what I've seen in the U.S. firsthand, is, you go to college and everybody just gets blottoed every goddamn weekend. Blottoed. Just fucking smashed because they can't drink until they can go to college.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can drink legally. Well, let's go get a handle of oh God, what was it that we were drinking so much? Green apple something. Green apple, I think it's a vodka, I think. And, yeah.
Smirnoff
99
vodka.
apples.
No, it was 99 apples. Thankfully, it wasn't 99 apples. But yeah, no, it was just...
Boone's Farm.
No, terrible.
Is it schnapps?
No, it wasn't schnapps. I think it was vodka. But anyways, besides the point, I'm Tangent Man, you guys aren't. Remember that. I'm the one who's supposed to be going off on a tangent. That's my job. No, so back to the subject.
Glad you caught yourself.
Yeah, whew, that was close. Cool, we were almost gone. Everybody's all pent up. They can drink until they're 21 unless they get their local like weed guy to buy beer for them when they buy weed before they're 18 or 21, because guess what, everybody smokes weed before they're legally allowed to in most states now. Hey,
Not
guess
everyone.
what, we're kind of getting over the whole weed being illegal thing. This is awesome, right?
Anytime you make something like taboo, like I guess in Europe, like sex and alcohol and all that stuff, it's just people are more open about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in places where you have it restricted, or it's like, taboo would be the right word, then it makes it like you go in so hard once you are able to experience it,
Yeah.
because it's not normal in a way.
Well,
Yeah.
Speaking to what you mentioned earlier, I think I remember reading that pushing back the drinking age to 21 didn't reduce the number of DUIs, it just pushed it back.
Yeah.
So the number of DUIs that was occurring for 18, 19, and 20-year-olds just now happens for 21, 22, and 23-year-olds.
I think the taboo thing is a huge part of it, but I also think that it's not just having the restriction of drinking alcohol until you're 21 or having access to weed. I think the problem stems, I'm not saying that we should put an age limit on drinking or smoking marijuana, but it has to do with like childhood trauma in a sense. Like say you have, really authoritative parents and you're kind of living an oppressed, upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So that can stem into having access to alcohol and then it becoming a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
You think that's worse here than in places where alcohol is legal?
Yes, I think it is worse here. Partly because of that, because it is restricted, but also I think it just starts with just raising healthy children who see alcohol as something to enjoy as opposed to binging, getting trashed every weekend.
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily the way that they want to interact and exchange with their friends and spend time.
If you have happy people, then they're gonna be using things in moderation.
Right,
And
right.
so then that's what you teach your children. But if they're seeing something besides that, it makes it okay.
Well, it's like that study with rats that they did where they found that they fed rats heroin, and the rats that could smoke heroin or could ingest heroin would do so and not eat until they basically starved to death. Just kept on pushing the button to get more heroin.
That's a fucked up thing to do to a rat.
But what they found out...
Agreed.
He did it to
What
himself,
they
man.
found out, though, is when they put the rats in a more natural environment, they didn't do that.
Huh.
They would push the heroin button,
made
but then they would
healthier
also...
choices.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Their environment was
Yeah.
healthier, so they didn't have to resort to that high just to have a good time or whatever.
The mice walk on some grass a bit, and they're like, you know what? Don't really need that heroin anymore.
This grass is pretty damn good.
I've been restricted in a white room with white walls and a bright light, and
I'd be pushing
That's
that
like
in my
necktie.
yeah, right. Medicate.
Did they get oxytocin from something else then?
I think it was in the water.
Well, one thing that I recently
Oh, I see
read
what you
is
mean.
they did research and they found mammals, specifically dolphins, are very compassionate with their young. And that aids in protecting them. So whenever a mom calls a baby dolphin to come over in times, the compassion is like it's known within the baby dolphin and it comes to the parent. It's just building that. I don't even know. What the
I
word
think there's
is.
chemicals that get released in
Right.
in that, and that's the oxytocin gets
Mhm.
released.
Yeah.
And so instead of having to go to a drug for that, they get it in the interaction.
In the relationships,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, like in Japan, like I'm pretty sure a kid. I'm not aware of there being any drinking age limit, and I know like you can get liquor in like vending machines and stuff. But kids that there's access to it, and cigarettes too, and at the same time, like because it's so readily available, there's not that like pressure, like oh man, I gotta do this because I can, and like there's that forbidden fruit
Yeah.
aspect of like if you're not allowed to have something, it makes you want it like all the more.
When in the places where marijuana is legal, teen use has gone down.
Yeah.
What
And
about
so-
when you see
Because
videos
people
and
want
stuff
to do
where
things that they're not supposed to do. Like, that's just kind of human nature.
Well, it's if you're told not to push the button, you want to push the button.
Yeah, right.
Like there's a, go ahead and look it up. It's one of my favorite scenes from that TV show. There's a Ren and Stimpy episode where he's told to guard a shiny red button and says, "All right, Stimpy, do not push that button." Okay, Ren, what does the button do? Maybe something bad, maybe something good. We just don't know. So don't
It's
push
like
the button.
Lost or something.
Yeah. So, he's got to guard the button. What ends up happening, he can't stop but to push the button. It's just, it's human nature. Don't do that. Why? It's bad for you.
But why?
Yeah. I mean,
I want to
It's the
see how
apple,
bad it is
man.
for him.
yeah, the golden apple. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all that.
It reminds me of the story of Freud and his wife had lost one of their children.
That's what I was thinking.
And the wife was looking for the child frantically, and Freud came home or whatever, and I can't find the kid, and he's like, did you tell him not to go anywhere? is what he asked her. And she's like, yeah, I told him not to go to the dock. And he's like, all right, let's go to the dock. Lo and behold, there's a kid at the dock. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, one thing I was going to say is another issue regarding alcohol and drugs is how it's pushed in marketing and advertising, specifically music videos that kids are just
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Kids, there's still
glamorous.
music videos? Kids watch music videos?
I don't know, do they? I
Oh,
would
they
assume
watch
MTV,
so.
not
bad
through
ones.
MTV.
They watch bad ones. You thought MTV was bad? It's dude, it's got worse.
You're
Well, now
starting
we're
to
all-
sound old there.
Well,
The kids are just doing fucked up shit at like a
That's
younger
Chelsea's
age.
mom.
this is kids these
Mom,
days.
guys,
This is the moment where we date ourselves.
Their music videos are worse than MTV and everything.
the way they shake their hips now?
In my day, all we had was Madonna.
It's very confused. It's like nobody knows what gender they are. Like it's
Why does
just
somebody
like,
gotta know?
people are
Why
drinking.
somebody got it?
People don't gotta know, but it's like it's just a very there's a lot of information given out, and there always has been. But I just feel like I don't know.
It's a little.
Specifically since the late 90s.
It's a little odd, yeah.
I feel like
the gender obfuscation.
Yeah.
No, the use of pop music
Goes
to
into-
It's not even the gender thing. It's like the
To
sexuality becomes
influence
younger and younger.
the youth.
And I really think I think there's maybe an agenda to like push younger and younger kids into sexual, I don't know.
Deviants.
Yeah, and to like share
Who
it.
decides what deviance is?
Moral people.
Not to say that kids shouldn't have that feeling at a young age, but it's not healthy to see everything so sexualized and like all the girls are coming in from off the Disney Channel, and then like a year later they're just like not
Whoring
as
out.
wholesome. You know, it's just
Well-
it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, no, that's something kind of interesting because you have a lot of the.
Who decides what a moral
Because
person
sex is taboo.
Moral
because,
people.
you know, like, that's what it has to do with. It's like we have this weird
Wow.
thing with sex in America.
Yeah,
I'm a moral person because
teaching
I'm a moral
self-respect.
person, and
Yeah.
I say I'm a moral person.
Exactly. That's what it boils down to. But yeah, I mean, you can go into the army, right, at like age 18, but you can't have a drink until you're 21. Like, how does
you
that make
can't
any
drink,
sense?
you can't buy a handgun, you
Yeah.
can't buy gold until you're 18.
Yeah,
You cannot, in California at least, you can't buy
That's
an ounce of
outrageous.
gold until you're 18.
that's
Isn't
outrageous.
that weird?
That is so weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can't do until you're 21, which is really ridiculous.
What about driving requirements?
Oh, yeah. I remember that nonsense. I didn't get my license until I was 18 because I didn't want to do any of that.
Well, that's
So I
the-
think
some
for
states
2
you
years
can-
I have
it
to,
is
like, have
14
somebody in the
years
car with
old,
me
you know, like,
nonsense.
In Idaho,
Yeah.
if you lived on a farm, you could get your license at 14.
That's
Restricted
Idaho,
license.
though, man. It's a long way from Cali,
No,
Or,
no.
I
Our
mean,
sister has
Arizona,
a health condition. Her daughter is getting her permit now at 13, so she can drive her around.
because of a health condition.
Yeah.
In Arkansas.
Yeah.
Wow, we all
Arkansas,
don't have
yeah.
our health conditions. But yeah, I mean, like back in the day, of course, I mean, kids growing up on, like you said, like more rural areas, they're driving tractors and they're what is it called? T9s or the old school automobiles.
That's like different from like
Model T.
13-year-old
Model
on
Ts,
the
thank you.
freeway in California, like
Like a cross
out in
between a
farm
Model T and a
country.
Caterpillar
I
D9.
know.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was going for.
So I think the real question really boils down to how does society decide when someone becomes fully able to make decisions for themselves? Can that be something that's decided amongst society?
Well, physiologically, I think scientifically you can make a good case that at the age of 25 isn't until that's when you fully have your prefrontal lobes fully developed for your judgment and reasoning and weighing of consequences and stuff.
So I
Right,
should have
that's-
stayed off on that heavy drug use for a couple more years.
Absolutely, yeah. Like any kind of heavy drug use before the age of 25. I wish I would have fucking waited.
It
I'll
all
tell you that.
happened before then. You know?
I know, it's a shame.
That's what-
But
Seems like the
Well,
best
that's
time.
that's because the experimentation takes place when you're legally an adult but still not developed.
yeah, exactly. That's when you're gonna go and do what you can.
Shave off a
what
couple IQ points. It's
Because
all
once
good.
you develop, you're not gonna do that shit no more.
Yeah, you be
Hey!
much more akin not to.
Those are the random packs of dogs that
These are the
roam
wild
around
wolves that.
Fat dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, the forest we film it in has wild packs of Jack Russells. It's pretty
So-
awesome. A little bit scary
What have
sometimes. but,
different
you
like
know,
cultures
here. No, the
done?
rat terriers.
rat terriers.
What's the age of accountability
Giant rat terriers.
in,
terriers?
in like Jewish
They're
culture?
dragon terriers. We talking about?
Yeah, the bar mitzvah 13, right? After accountability.
Well, that's
Jewish.
the thing too. In most cultures, historically, between 12 and 14 was the age that you became a full member of the society.
Mhm.
Girls
Um,
get pregnant.
And
Doesn't get
Yeah.
pregnant.
well, it's not just that though. It's not just that. People were raised differently. I knew this guy who was a missionary in Papua New Guinea, and he used to talk. I would hear about how from 2-3 years old, you were basically on your own for most of the day. Like your parents would still take care of you. You would learn, but you were mostly like learning how to survive the world.
Hands on.
And a lot of people as adults would have a bunch of scars because of stuff that they would do as kids.
Learning the ropes.
Learning the ropes, yeah.
Old-fashioned way.
Do you think that maybe the reason why?
But you were a
you're-
full-fledged
sorry.
member of society by 13 and
Right, and they had rites of passage where they had to
Right.
accomplish some, feat or some task or what have you, ordeal to become, fully, a member of society or what have
do
you.
you think
We've
though
lost that?
that the sophistication of society has driven the number up?
The number of what?
Sophistication of society.
Oh,
Right. Thing when your whole existence is agrarian or pre-agrarian, there might not be as many hazards that you need to learn to avoid.
Sure. Or the world was just safer. People were safer.
I kind of
No.
that seems to make sense to me.
But didn't wasn't there less crime like back 40 years ago? I guess where you could kind of
Not 40 years ago, there weren't. There
let your
wasn't.
kids wander a little bit further. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But
I know what you're saying though. I think
in Japan,
I think we are not. I think we coddle kids. By we, I
slaughter
mean
them.
the average parent in
Yeah.
America
Yeah.
today.
Well, yeah, it's like carrying on the childhood
When I
process
was-
much longer than it
yeah,
needs to be.
yeah.
I lived in the bad part of Stockton till I was 10, and by bad part of Stockton, I mean my neighbors had their house shot up with Uzis.
Yeah.
good.
And I remember riding in the car on Easter one year through the middle of a police standoff.
So you're a gangster, is what you're saying.
So you're an
Well, but I used to, it was no big deal to wander the neighborhood by myself or with my brother.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because things were safer back then or things were safer in my area, because they weren't.
Yeah.
It was because, I don't know, the parents weren't so coddling, I guess, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, today, you do that in a nice neighborhood and you have
You
the
get
cops at your
CPS
door.
calls.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
that comes
You're
in
like,
like
what are you
the-
doing letting your kids play outside?
The helmets and bicycles and
Mhm.
all that stuff, right? And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how many kids got brain damage because they had a bicycle accident. When I was a kid, as compared to now, but yeah.
I'm dating myself a bit, but I do remember when I was a little kid, my friend's dad would pick us up from school at the end of the day, and we'd jump in the back of the pickup and go home. And I remember specifically, like, it was the next year, they're like, oh, we can't do that anymore. I'm all like, what the fuck?
I know.
Well,
You know?
why?
Remember riding in the back
Yeah.
of a Volvo? You're like in the trunk or something, and those little seatbelts. It's like
Well, yeah, but it
it was the best.
Yeah, and so like the thing that was funny is that I mean, he was a pretty good dude, and we like me and my two friends, we all bitched about it. We were like, "What? We can't jump in the back?" And he's like, "Okay, fine. Like
One more time.
today, you can do it still. Like we're gonna
keep your head
risk
down.
it, All right, rebels, let's go." And so like we had one day where we were doing it illegally on the way home. We're just like, "Woo, yeah, no seatbelts. Fuck this shit." So
I remember we couldn't ride in the back on the freeway, but you could do it on back roads.
okay.
Right
Well,
up until
see the
I graduated
freeway,
from high school.
but-
And I remember one time my buddy got arrested, and a bunch of us were in the back of the truck when he got arrested, and none of us could drive yet.
Mhm.
Cops made us walk back to town, 2
2
miles. Like, oh, I have a dog in the back. You can't ride with me. Yeah, it was not cool.
Not cool.
Not to mention the fact that he was arrested for bullshit reasons. Basically, he made the cop mad. That's what it amounted to. That's what it came down to.
That's what it always
But anyway,
comes down to.
I digress. No, so what do you guys think about this idea? Like, should there be a specific age? People mature at different levels. Do you think there needs to be a general?
I was thinking one thing. I was reading about Japan recently, or watching a video, and they will like have their 4 and 5-year-olds like go to a market down the street. Like the kids know, or ride a subway, and the kids know that they can depend on the community around them if they're in trouble, and they just grow up with this sense of like kind of doing it themselves, where it's like we can't let our kids like get out of eyesight really.
Yeah.
Well, we could. We don't.
We
could,
could,
but
we
we
don't.
don't.
And we don't have
for
that
good
trust
reason.
with each other, you know.
And
that,
for pretty good reason,
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
some, and I think maybe, I mean,
That's why I'm wondering, did it used to be safer? Because I remember it being more like you could go into the cul-de-sac and play and wander and, you know, like be
Yeah.
lost for a
Maybe
while.
it's
And now,
fear. I think it's fear built in.
Yeah.
Stories, news, sensational.
Yeah, I was gonna say where does that lack of trust come from?
Well,
How is
like,
it that we've gotten
from
to
experience.
Well,
that?
Experiences.
that's what
Now.
it is. It's little stuff that people overreact to. For
Yeah.
instance, the whole stranger danger idea. You are more likely, a child is more likely to be abused by a family member than a stranger.
or
Yeah.
a friend of the family, yeah.
Vastly more likely.
well, I think I actually read that we're safer now than we used to be, but it's like everything is such a big deal that it feels really scary to like, you know.
Tamper
lose a
seals
kid
on pills. The reason there's a tamper seal on pills is because back in the 80s, one guy
One guy,
Tylenol.
yeah.
The
poisoned some
Tylenol
Tylenol.
scare, Yeah.
Oh,
What's funny, though-
right.
What's funny though is nobody bats an eye to look at Tylenol being the number one cause of liver failure in the country. Number one cause of liver failure is Tylenol. Nobody bats an eye.
I totally
but
believe that. yeah.
one guy poisons some Tylenol, and we need a piece of plastic on that shit.
Don't use it. Doesn't have a seal. Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately, I guess it'd be like, who would impose an age restriction, and what is the basis of their authority to impose an age restriction?
Yeah. Should it at least be up to the parents, if anybody, you know?
Or
And not
I
even.
guess an argument could be made for a business owner, but
Sure.
Yeah.
outside of that,
Chuck E. Cheese would be a whole lot different.
Do you hate kids, John? Do you hate kids?
Kids don't like
Won't
alcohol.
somebody
though.
please think
Yeah?
of the children?
They don't have
They don't like alcohol.
They don't have the
a
taste buds
for
for
beer
it.
and
you know?
wine.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
Give me
that's
some
true.
Coca-Cola, damn it. That's my drug of choice for the
I
kid.
probably
no, you
wouldn't
just
even
keep giving it to
drink
them until they
later in
get
life.
developed the taste buds.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
When they start like bouncing off the walls, it's good.
Once they
you know,
start
like
falling on the ground.
like Superman into the
Well,
wall.
I mean, like let's
How
think,
many
let's take
kids
an example.
today were soothed during their
That's
teething years
just
with
what I was
alcohol.
saying. Yeah. Put some whiskey in like the bottle. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom completely admits that. She's like, yeah, I used to cry a lot in whiskey. I'm like, oh, thanks.
There's where my love of whiskey comes from.
She told me she was kind of like a one for you and one for me. Thanks, Mom.
Back when you would like lay your baby in the back seat and like buckle it in with the seatbelt.
I don't think I was buckled in.
No, this is the buckle.
But yeah, okay, so how, so a voluntary... Oh, dun dun dun, thank you. Voluntary age restrictions. Okay, so let's think of an extreme example. So, 5-year-old kid walks into a gun store and he's like, hey, I'm the kid from, what was the book, Catcher in the Rye. Let me have a gun. Well, so a guy who owns a gun store...
I'm the kid from Catcher in the Rye.
What's the character's name? I'm drawing a blank right now.
I'm pretty sure I'm not going to sell to you.
Yeah.
I read that book.
But what I'm trying to say is, a kid walks into a gun store and wants to buy a gun and has the money for it. That the guy who runs the gun store is going to still have his business in that community. If he sells a gun to a 5-year-old and that 5-year-old does something terrible with that gun, they're going to know where he got it from.
Right.
I mean, it's not too hard to figure that out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So parents would hold them accountable.
Well, I think when you take government out of the equation, it becomes more like a personal accountability. Like people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Your name means more in a way. Like.
I'll try to eat Don King.
Don King is so attractive.
But yeah.
I
That's kind of what John was saying, that people are going to be more responsible because it's more on them than it is now.
Right.
I think that accountability is to, go back to a subject of maybe like a corporation or something, where it's like people who work for corporations tend to be a little bit less responsible because ultimately they're not personally responsible for it. I was acting under authority of corporation.
I was just following orders.
Yeah, it's just following orders or something like that.
Maybe that's because our kids are used to like being parents are all over them and following orders instead of like going out and doing it on their own. So then they don't have to be accountable for it anymore. They're just following orders. Maybe.
Gross. Thanks for farting. Thank you for right next to me. Thanks, I really appreciate it.
Mike, we know it was you. Don't blame it on the dog.
That was definitely a dog-sized squeak, okay?
don't know which number is that on the app.
So, it's kind of a difficult question. And I don't want to get heavily into it.
Right.
But what about age of consent for, like, sex?
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, if we're going to dive into it, let's dive into it. I mean, that's been variable throughout the course of human history, and to the point where, like, even modern day, you have the age of consent very wildly all over the world. I mean, just south border of Mexico, I think it's 12. It's 12 or 13. I mean, to me, I sit there and go, like, I've never met a 12 or 13-year-old that's probably in the right state of mind for that to be healthy. For that to be something that they're fully confident of.
But then again, how many people outside of American culture, how many 13-year-olds have you met outside of American culture, too?
Yeah, this one time, this like around 13-year-old kid came into the school that I was going at in Mexico. And I was going to school down there for a while, and this guy was like 13, but he looked like he was 25. And, he was like a grown man. And he had yeah, I mean, it's a different culture.
Riley's saying the thing. Do you see the beard on that 13-year-old? That was fucking wild.
Yeah, I didn't get one until I was like 23, so. But.
I think like 18 is a little high, in a way.
For a lot of things, yeah, for sure. And I'm trying to think about like, okay, so I mean,
I think like
Yeah.
16. Like if you could drive, you could choose.
If you can have babies, you know,
Like,
The,
have at it.
sure, yeah.
I think it's a different question too between, like a 16-year-old having sex with a 16-year-old
Right,
and
yeah.
like
having sex with an android,
like a
that's
30-year-old.
roughly the age of like
What
consent.
about
And
a
what's the age of consent for an android? Is that like something where we
Yeah.
have to like?
The
What's
moment
the
of
thing?
conception.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what if you have like a
But
30-year-old
conception,
male
is that like
with a
When it
13-year-old
comes
robot?
online.
the
when it
moment
comes
it's a sex
online?
bot.
I think
Would that cross, any kind of moral line there?
we're gonna have to.
We're gonna have to pick that up another time.
I felt like it was just
Sadly,
getting to go
there's
somewhere.
always a part two.
There's always a part two.
There's
That's an
always
excellent
the
way to-
part two.
Have a good night.
Take
Yeah,
care.
folks.